Dayo, you've got the first guest, so you go ahead.
Oh, yes. Maybe we should take that first swipe, Chamberlain, at that economic conversation that we are supposed to have because, hey, the issues are not just going to go away. Well, the the coordinating minister of the economy and minister of finance was at the National Assembly yesterday as guests of members of the House of Representatives, as well as the governor of the CBN. So we have Wale Ogundare with us here this morning. He is CEO, Carthena Advisory. He joins us virtually in Lagos. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mr. Ogundare.
Good morning.
Yeah. Well, a quick one on what your take is. How persuasive or how persuaded are you about the visit of the members of the executive to the National Assembly yesterday, and how persuasive is their contribution as far as you're concerned?
Put me on the spot with that. Because if I share the sentiment of a lot of Nigerians, it's not very persuasive at the moment. We can see what's going on with a lot of people focusing strictly on the monetary policies, forgetting that the main anchor of the economy resides with our fiscal policy. For me, until we're able to marry these two policies in such a way that they're reliant on each other, the achievement of one without the other will not really take us anywhere. If you also look at the conversations going on in the National Assembly regarding this visit, it's been strictly around the monetary policies and, you know, applying a few corporate governance principles around it. So for me, I'm not very enthused just yet. I'd like to see a few more things around the fiscal policies, particularly around the productive sector within Nigeria.
Well, let's look away from the sentiments because you are a figures person, so you have some data to look at, and Nigerians will not see. Many Nigerians will not see that. They just see what's right before them, that what the markets are saying. Well, by market, I'm talking about my 12, Sabongiri, Ariari, and the rest of the market like that, not the kind of market you are used to with your suit and tie. So talk to us about the figures, what the figures are saying, what the trajectory looks like. I mean, looking at all of the things that Mr. Cardoso was saying about the outlook of the world, the S&P global ratings, and so many other issues like that. Talk to us about that. How forward-looking are those for us as a nation?
Okay, let me look at the primary figure, and you know we discussed this last when I was at Channels. The primary figure for me resides in the Nigerian budget. You see, you can only do so much if you have $65 per person per annum in a country. That for me is the fundamental figure. If you're looking at the S&P, you know, all of those ratings, those things are all futuristic projections. Let's look at our own budget and how it's been structured. My last visit, we discussed the fundamentals of a budget, looking at those figures that you mentioned. And for me, the main primary figure there is that our total budget per person per Nigerian, as at then, was $65 per person per Nigerian per annum. If I use today's dollar exchange rate, I'm sure we'll fall to somewhere around $50 per Nigerian per annum. You can only do so much with those kinds of figures, which is why, for me, the only thing I'm looking out for is how we improve our FDI. Again, if you look at numbers in terms of our FDI, which is what I think will help with the productive sector, our FDIs have been very poor. I don't even want to put figures to this. You see, the more I put figures to it, the more it may demoralize Nigerians. Our FDIs, which traditionally had come in, you know, at some reasonable figures, you know, they've dried up, you know, to near zero. In the last 6 months, 9 months, it's dried up to near zero. So
yeah, my apologies.
So
I guess that yes, I guess that speaks to the challenges that the managers of the economy have on their hands and what they have to do. One last question to you, Mr. Ogundare. The CBN governor said where the time for cynicism and panic is not now, and the minister of the economy, coordinating minister of the economy, also says we as a nation are where we are as a nation economically is a much better place than we were on May 29, 2023. Do you agree with him?
I don't agree. I don't agree at all.
Why is that?
Like I said, when I analyze the budget, because it's the budget
my
that
apologies.
drives everything.
See, the budget wasn't drawn by this government, if you want to factor that in. That's why I'm asking you whether or not they just have to work with whatever it is that they have. Okay, no, the budget of this year was drawn by this government, not the previous one. But so they kind of have to find one way or the other to make some of these things. So beyond looking at the numbers of those ones, just look at the policies and programs that the government has come up with. Do you see any hope? Because that's what the governor of the CBN and the coordinating minister of the economy are saying.
So let me address those policies.
Yeah.
You will notice, you see, in setting up policies, there's a process in coming up with policies. A lot of the policies that I see the CBN particularly coming up with, they've all been in a haste. It's akin to the fact that you're driving a car, and all of a sudden, there's a flat tire. There's an engine problem. So it's all in a haste to, let's fix this. Let's fix that. The whole thing about, is this car in a good condition to even be driven, isn't being looked at. All of those policies are policies being used to sort of to sort of address some of the issues that have existed, in a long time. And for me, this is the same party we're talking about. The last administration was the APC. The current one is the APC as well. So I like to think that from a party perspective, the minimum expected is that this is what we represent as a party. Therefore, this is the continuum we're heading to. Now, let's agree that, okay, there were some mistakes made in the last administration that they're trying to correct in this one. For me, the approach to the policy formulations have been, it's just been modeled.
Mr. Ogundare, my apologies.
Yeah.
These are initial conversations. Maybe sometime next week we'll find a way to pull you into the studio so that we can have a more elaborate conversation about this, because the issues you are raising are quite germane, and I want to believe that the managers of the economy themselves have their hands on these issues. Just wanted to give some people some perspective of this so that it doesn't look like, hey, what's going on here? Just some understanding. But thank you so much for giving us a little bit of that. Some work for the economic managers to do. Wale Ogundare, CEO, Carthena Advisory. Thank you again for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. It's back to you, Chamberlain.